Dive into the world of cybersecurity with Pierre Dickson, a seasoned fractional CISO. From NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center to leading law firms, Pierre shares his journey and insights on navigating the complex landscape of cybersecurity and compliance.
So my name is Pierre Dickson, and I am a fractional CISO, and I work primarily in the legal space for law firms and small businesses and some insurance companies. So I would say my trajectory into becoming a CISO started at Goddard Space Flight Center at NASA. I was an enterprise services manager and managing one of the largest contracts on the base at the time. And NASA at the time wanted a cybersecurity engineering team, and they asked me to be the manager of that team. And that's how I got my start in cybersecurity. And as I progressed, I had an opportunity to work for a defense contractor, and that was my first C-level or director's cybersecurity job. And from there, I just continued to grow. I really enjoy the leadership part of being a CISO and talking to people and remaining engaged and helping the business align with the security and compliance. So what I've seen personally, I think that it's important to understand the networking side of things really well. Meaning that you need to understand what you're protecting in order to protect it. So for me, focusing on understanding networking, your systems, understanding protocols, and then moving over into compliance. And once you get the compliance work done, then it's easier to move into the C-level management leadership because now you understand both sides. I find some leaders don't understand the technical side, and it prevents them from really engaging with the engineering teams and talking to, people in the room that may not be C-level or leadership, but I think for me, it seems the engineers respect you more when they know that you've been technical. So the federal government, what I loved about the federal government was the structure. And I think the NIST and FISBA, those frameworks really helped give me a strong foundation. And you realize, especially with NIST, right, even though for private companies, it's a guideline, but for the federal government, it's a requirement. So having that mindset of pushing compliance and assuring that best practices are in place at organizations helped me move into the private sector legal space with a stronger foundation than most people would have. Because on the private sector side, a lot of things aren't requirements. On the federal side, it's a requirement, right, that you meet NIST 853, or if you're trying to, have a GCC high compliant environment, you have to abide by 800-171. So having that mindset for me means that when I go into an organization, I look for the compliance, what we are following. In the private sector would be like ISO 27001. It's easy for me to map those controls to like NIST 853. It's an easier walk for me than it was to me to go the opposite way. If you had started off with ISO 27001 and then going to the federal government side, because it is more stringent on the federal government side. So at some of the federal agencies, my first big team was roughly 50 people, but that encompasses, the exchange administrators, the help desk, the engineers, some of the Cisco people, router people, and I'm a people person, so I enjoy moving the organization forward. I enjoy talking to people, learning about their backgrounds, and helping them to grow. The CISO level was more like running a business, because when you get to that level, you're actually doing performance reviews, you're managing your budget. When I was with the school system, that was one of the more difficult things to do, was balancing your budget when you have to cut 10%. So you're looking at the vendors, you're looking at the technology, and you're also trying to keep people happy. So it's like running a business, and you have to be able to do that and be successful at it. Well, so what led me to the fractional work was basically vendors that I had been dealing with in the legal space were suggesting it to me. This is roughly, maybe 6 years ago. And they were bringing it to my attention that, hey, you could do this type of work and really develop a work-life balance because sometimes, most of the time on full-time jobs, especially with the level of work that I do, you're sort of always working. I mean, you're always working because you're salaried, so you're not hourly. So the calls on the weekends, the calls at night, those are calls that you have to answer, right? So especially at my level. And so the fractional work for me opened up another, almost like a second career because it allows me to pick and choose the clients I would like to work with, and I can define the number of hours I'm going to give this particular client per month. So it makes it extremely flexible, and I'm very grateful to this platform for allowing me to be on it because this is great. It's like a second career for me. So I really enjoy it. I'm juggling multiple engagement. I'm not really tied to a particular job where I have to do certain things, right? Like the deliverables I have to deliver, but I'm not tied. Folks aren't calling me often at all. They're not. So when you're on a full-time, you get these walk-offs that happen because you're logged in. People see that you're online. Oh, let me call Pierre. So I don't have that now. Even with multiple clients, I just don't have it. So everything is scheduled. And so it's easier for me to balance my calendar, which I have a program I use that syncs all of my calendars. I love Calendar Bridge. Calendar Bridge is a great tool for me to sync because I have roughly 6 calendars that I'm managing. And so you can't get overbooked, right? And I can look at everything I need to see in one place. And there's a phone app for it too. So it's great. So I use another app called Folk. This is an app that allows me to track all of my connections, all people that I have collaborations with. It's a great tool for that. It has a reminder set. If I haven't talked to someone in a few weeks, it'll remind me, hey, you haven't talked to John in 2 weeks. You should send them an email, right? So I can keep track of, and that really helps me because, I meet people all the time, and especially on LinkedIn. And this has an API that's linked into LinkedIn, right? So when I go to LinkedIn, I want to add them to my Folk app. It's easy to do. And I can add them in certain categories. And then it helps me to maintain these connections because we meet so many people, and it helps me with having everything in one place. So I really love that too. Well, if we're going to talk about security specific tools, Rapid7, SentinelOne, Carbon Black. I would also throw in there Mandiant as a SOC and Arctic Wolf. Those are when I go into when I engage with most customers, I'm looking for those type of tools because they've served me well. This time, again, my focus is mostly on law firms, right? So most of the law firms that I'm dealing with now are small to mid-size. And usually they have a director or they have a CIO. They just don't have someone to drive cybersecurity. And someone like myself, who's used to running all of cybersecurity, I come in very easily and can look at your environment and see the gaps, know where your gaps are, and then start working on preparing a roadmap and then sharing this roadmap with leadership. I'm used to doing that too, because leadership, sometimes they don't understand how important cybersecurity is. And oftentimes, if you haven't done it or spoken to it, it's hard for you to get the words out or to share with people who are not technical while we're spending X amount of dollars on things. And so I've been doing this for a very long time, up to the federal government level. And so it's very easy for me to justify the cost, especially now with AI, not even on the horizon anymore, but AI is here. You really have to pay attention. Well, most people don't have an AI policy. And when I'm engaging with clients or prospective clients, I'm often telling them, you need an AI policy to help your users understand what the firm's view is on the uses of AI, what tools we're going to allow, because AI is baked in everything. If you use Microsoft 365, you're using Copilot, right? So for me, it's always the guardrails. And it's no different than any other tools or area that's in technology, where you're bringing new technology out, but you have to have guardrails. Like I remember years ago when antivirus was free, right? And then the viruses became more proliferate. So they had to change the model and get licensing, right? But I remember when it was free or you bought it one time. So as things change, we just have to put more guardrails in place and to help people. I think that when you're building out, even if you're a startup, you can't forget about your cybersecurity and your policy and your compliance. That's very important. So most of the tools that I'm using are baked into the security stack, like Rapid7. These tools already have AI built in. For me, they've helped automate some of the findings or some of the malicious code that may be out there. It's able to help me find it faster, right? So that, from that standpoint, AI has been good. And I think also for productivity, it's helped individuals write faster. It's helped them identify, errors in maybe documents that they're sending, even in email, right? So that's helpful. I just think that we just have to have guardrails. Everything needs compliance, even with when you fly an airplane, right? There's compliance around that. Someone has to say, well, only so much flight time can be on these engines before you have to replace them. And it's just the same thing with technology. We just have to put guardrails in place. I've seen it done both ways, where the CIO and the CISO are peers. One might report to the board of directors and the other might report to the CEO. And then I've seen the CISO work under the CIO. The CIO's job is to oversee technology for the entire company. The CISO's job is to enforce cybersecurity for the company. So sometimes if the CIO is not on the same page with the CISO, there could be issues because the CIO is just looking for the new technology. He wants to keep people happy, buying new toys, where the CISO is more interested in protecting. So we find ourselves sometimes at odds with people, with leadership, because they want to spend money on the shiny tools. And I'm saying, well, we have all of these gaps. Let's fill these gaps first before we buy a shiny tool. So, but most organizations I've worked in, the CIO and the CISO have worked hand in hand because they understand the mission is to protect the organization. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it done both ways. I prefer that the CISO be a peer to the CIO and not under the CIO. They should be equal.